And when we picked it up and we played it back, it sounded like children and people screaming and chairs sliding across the ground and movement and just complete chaos.
There's a force in all of us that science knows nothing about, the force of fear.
Welcome, everyone, to Induced Fear. I'm your host, Oscar. With me, I have Mike Delcoro, paranormal investigator, researcher with a plethora of shows. How's it going, man?
Hey, what's up? Happy to be here.
So you've been in the paranormal for how many years?
So I've been with the team that I'm on for approximately, I think almost like 4 years now. But I've been probably investigating totally for about 8 years. And I've always been super passionate about everything weird, you know, very interested at a young age in paranormal stuff, UFOs, conspiracies, all that stuff that really gets your mind turning. I've always enjoyed that. And I think I really kind of fell in line with the spirituality and the ghosts and the hauntings and stuff, because it was something that you can go and investigate and do, and where UFO and sky watching and stuff, just it's cool, and I enjoy that stuff too, and doing the research on it. But I think with the investigating, man, just being able to get out there and use the equipment and capture some of the stuff that we've captured is just really the path that I kind of chose.
Yeah, the real boots on the ground part of the investigation and research aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you said, when it comes to you being interested in it at a young age, what was your origin story when it came to like your first footing into the paranormal? Like what
Yeah,
brought you?
and it's something I still think about a lot today. When I was younger, I did have an experience, and I don't mind going into detail about it. I don't talk about it a whole lot, like just like offering that information out. But if somebody asks me, I don't mind talking about it. Um, I was, I can't remember exactly how old I was. I was probably in the 7-ish, 8-ish age range, right around there. And I remember waking up, just kind of opening my eyes and looking down at my feet, and there was three entities, um, or figures standing over my bed, like, and it it really like scared the living bejesus out of me. I'm a child, I'm frozen in fear, and I'm kind of like, now I can't move. It's like a sleep paralysis kind of thing, and I'm looking, like, laying down, but like looking over my body down towards my feet with my eyes, and I could just see him standing there, and I couldn't really make out any features. Um, as this is going on, I had like a train, like a little Lego toy train set track
Okay. Yeah.
on a table, like a folding table on the side of my room, and it lit up, and it didn't turn on and like start going around the track, but it turned on for a second, lit, and went like a couple inches, and and then after that happened, everything was gone, and I was just, and I stood, and then I wasn't frozen anymore, and I could sit up, and I was just like panicking, and I don't know what that was, and I still even wonder, like, if that could have been a dream, man, or what it was, but I don't remember it being a dream, and it was too vivid, too real,
Yeah, the
and
fear
I always,
felt too real.
it was, yeah, and it was, a lot of times, even if you have a very, very real type dream, when you wake up, as soon as you wake up, you go, okay, that was spooky, and it felt real, but I know it was a dream kind of thing.
Yeah,
This 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 stuck.
you always wake up saying that dream felt real. Like you first
Exactly.
like
This was like this was my like, you know what I mean? Like, and even when you have a dream, like, nothing, everything is not perfect. You know what I mean? It's like, this was legit, man. And ever since that, I had like a very weird and just anything with like aliens like really freaked me out, man, when I was a kid. So I always thought it was maybe something to do with that, like um, because
Like an attempt to an abduction or something like that? Like
yeah, I don't know. I just thought it had something related to that, and then more as I got older and started diving into some of this, side of things, hauntings, and that I think it might have been, it could have been more um, on that side of things. So I
yeah.
don't know. I mean, I'm never gonna know, but I think a lot of people that investigate the paranormal had some kind of experience. So not all, but a lot, you know.
Yeah,
And
some
then
people just get pulled in by the shows, but then there are the few
yeah,
who have their
this
experiences like
this
yourself.
had to be honest with you, I never watched any of the shows. Um and once in a while, flipping through the
Yeah.
channels and like something would be on and I'd be like, "Oh, let me see what's going on here." Um but I really got pulled into it. And this is kind of a neat story. I was hanging out with like one of my best friends at the time, and he passed away. God rest his soul. But at the time, it was me, him, and his wife, and his wife's friend, and we were all kind of just hanging out and on his patio and just chatting. And he enjoyed the paranormal as well, so we always talk about it and everything. And his wife knew that, and so did her friend. So her friend goes, "Hey, by the way, I want to tell you guys, I really think my apartment is haunted or something's going on in my apartment." And she was single at the time, so single woman living at home, one dog in an apartment. So she happens to go out of town, um, you know, whatever reason, family stuff, whatever. And she asked if Marta, Rick's my friend's wife, if she could dog sit while she was out of town. And she goes, "Hey, by the way, guys, I'm not in town. I trust you guys. If you want to go to my house while I'm not there and check it out and see if anything is going on there, and investigate it, I'm more than welcome. You guys can just go. Your wife has the key. Have at it." Um, so it was like the second day after she was gone. His wife went there the first day, let the dog out, fed it, whatever, locked the door, left. And then the next day, we're like, "Hey, we're like, hey, we're gonna go over to her apartment tonight." So, and she was there, so she's like, "Yeah, no problem. Here's the key." Um, so we go and this is the first time that I've ever investigated. You know what I mean? Like,
Oh,
so
okay.
I grab an EMF meter off eBay at the time. Amazon even was a thing. I grab an EMF reader, an audio recorder, my phone that takes some pictures and whatever, and we just go, and we didn't expect anything, we were just going to. So we get to the apartment, we unlock the door, and I hear water running, and I'm like, "What in the world is that?" So we walk over to the one bathroom, small apartment, Florida, little Florida style, one bathroom, one bed, and we hear the water running, and we walk over to the bathroom, the door's shut, the lights on. We're like, "That's odd." So I open up the bathroom door, and you know how women they have all this product, right? And it's always on the
Oh,
counter, like
yeah.
everywhere. So
Oh, yeah.
that is all scooped. Like if somebody put their hands and scooped everything into the sink, not one thing is on the countertop. Everything is in the sink, and both the hot and the cold knob are turned to full, wide open water,
Well,
and it's just dumping over these things, and I'm like, "Wow, this is dangerous." You know what I mean? If something clogged the thing, this
yeah.
could be I'm like, "What in the world?" So I shut it off, and I'm like, "That's super super weird." And I'm like, and the door was shut, right? And the only thing in the house is the dog, and I think the dog's name was Peanut. It was like a little tiny something, I don't know, like a little mutt, like it was not big. So
Yeah.
it's not like it's jumping up on the counter and knocking everything and turning on water and doing it was very very odd. Um, and to make it a long story pretty short, because we can cover some other stuff there, but then we go to her bedroom. The bedroom's locked from the inside. Um, we 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 called her and we're like, hey, we just found this. Your bedroom's locked. Did you lock the bedroom when you left? She's like, no. Why would I lock it? How could I get back in? You know. And we're like, well, I guess that's true, but there's a little pinhole, and you could stick something in there and like kind of pop it for safety reasons. If it's locked from the other side, like on a bedroom
Yeah.
door. So we popped it out. We asked, can we go? She's like, yeah, I didn't even lock it. You can go in. So we popped it open, and as soon as we open the door, we walk past the threshold, we hear a disembodied voice of like a man, like groan,
Oh
like, and
shit.
we're like, what in the f? This
Yeah.
is wild. And then we even had some spikes on the EMF reader, just sitting on the glass coffee table, nothing electric around. We're asking if something was here. It starts spiking. Um, we go to leave, and we walk out front. We smoke a cigarette and shut the door. And we are like, all right, we'll go back in, and we'll lock it up. We open the door and walk back in. The dog's on the countertop of the kitchen countertop, like standing there frozen, like what is going on, like looking around.
Yeah.
And there's, like I said, this thing is like a size of smaller than a cat dog. You know what I
No
mean? Like
way it could jump up onto the counter.
absolutely no way. And there was nothing close to the counter that it could jump onto and then jump up there. And that was another thing. We called her again, the owner, and we're like, hey, has your dog ever jumped on the counter? He's like, no, it can't jump on the counter. So like this, I mean, this is the first time I ever investigated, and
Yeah.
never have I seen anything of this type again. But the first time, I mean, you experience something like this, and and you're gonna keep doing it. You
Yeah.
know what I
Yeah. It's
mean?
gonna make you want more answers. You're gonna go for those answers. You're gonna try to
Right?
go
It's like
for it.
every time you try to get some kind of an answer, you just end up with more questions.
Yeah. No, 100%. I believe that. Especially with the fact of is like there's no way this dog got up on the counter. There's nobody else in this place who would that's that can make a noise. Like there's no other man in here with us
I've tried to
to
debunk.
hear
I've
that.
tried to debunk everything, like, and nothing I can come up with. I mean, the door was shut. The bathroom door was shut too, and it pulled shut. Like if you were inside, you'd have to push it shut. If you're outside, you have to pull it to close it.
Yeah.
The dog can't do that. If it was the other way
No,
around, and it
especially if
could
you're
push it
saying it
shut.
was like a tiny little
Yeah,
dog.
even if any kind of dog, you'd have to have a thumb to grab the
Yeah.
door and pull it.
Yeah.
So it's just none of this made any sense. Um, and his wife was there the day before, and the only thing I could think of is, and I know her well, and she would never do anything like that. Even like but I'm trying to think of anything. Like, can I debunk this? Right? Um,
Yeah.
would she, if she knew that we were coming, do you think that she could have turned the water on just to spook us or something? But that's dangerous. Who would do that to, accidentally flood somebody's house just to spook somebody the next day and run the water bill? It doesn't make sense. And she didn't know we were going to go because we didn't plan it. It was just like, oh,
Yeah.
she's going to be out of town this week. We'll go one night. You know what I mean? Like, kind of thing.
Or why would she ruin her like products by throwing them in the sink and then running
Yeah,
water
exactly.
over
That's
it?
her
Yeah.
friend. Why would
Yeah.
you put all her stuff in this?
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, nothing made sense. So very, very weird.
Yeah, that would be something that definitely to pull somebody in to make them want to do this even
And it
more.
was, and what makes it, and she was, it's not like she, um she's talked about it before. She was like, I think something's going on in my apartment, and then the last time when she told us, she's like, I really think it's haunted. Like, I can't, like, I'm gonna move. Like, this is, so super. I wish I still had access to the place. It was so long ago. I don't even remember exactly which apartment it was. I remember the neighborhood, but it would be kind of crazy to like go back there and knock on a door and be like, hey, this is gonna sound weird, but have you ever
Yeah.
experienced anything in here? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Do you have small dogs that just happen to appear on top of the counter?
Yeah, exactly. You got any dogs floating around in here or anything?
Yeah. Well, especially with the sound of somebody groaning, my thought immediately would be like, okay, it's an apartment, whatever. Maybe there's people nearby.
Yeah, and you would think that,
But
but
you would,
this was, like, in our ear, like, it
yeah,
was, like,
exactly.
there. It wasn't, like, through a wall and
Yeah, because you
possibly I
can
heard
definitely tell the
something.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, this was right in front of us, and then and on top of everything else, so, yeah. And then,
Okay.
and then moving forward, um, my good buddy Joe, um, this is years later now, was found this team, War Party Paranormal in Florida, and he's like, "Hey man, I found these guys. They're investigators. They're legit. I joined the team. You should come out and check it out." So I went and checked it out. I met them. I became instant like buddies with the team leader Eric. Um, and then that's the rest is history. We investigate um, different amounts during the year, but I mean it kind of averages out to like almost weekly at some
Oh,
points,
wow.
Um, we do residential cases to help people that are struggling with the paranormal. So if that's another reason that, everything that we do, we stay absolutely legitimate, because we want to earn, people's trust. Once that's lost, you can never get that back. So
Yeah,
we're really,
100%.
really, really focused on helping people that are struggling with the paranormal because, a lot of us knew how that felt, you know, dealing with this. And then we started hosting, well, not us, but the team started, and I was part of the team, but the team before I was even there, but they started hosting a live events, ghost hunting events, where you can come out and you could pay a couple bucks and, you come out and you join the team and you get to go in these places that are museums that are open to us at night where we could take them around and investigate and show them these places and bring awareness and show them that what we do and the equipment and how we use it. And, it lets them meet us and become comfortable with us. So they can always walk up to us after the event and be like, "Hey, you're never going to believe this, what's going on." And then we're like, "Oh yeah, well, we can come by, we can help you. We don't charge anything. We're a nonprofit." And we'll set up, we have a case manager. I'm one of the case managers. And we'll schedule a preliminary and an investigate and try to get them help. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's I mean, there are a couple place groups out here that do that. I've been connected with a few of them. But though when it's like as your guys self as a nonprofit, when it's just focusing on helping people, I think that separates you from the people who are just trying to make a name for themselves really or
Yeah, exactly. I
gain
mean,
some
don't
type
get me
of
wrong.
clout.
We really enjoy what we do, and we love getting capturing evidence and providing it to the public to see. But when it comes to residential cases, that's all strictly confidential. We don't put any of that out there. I don't think anybody should, because these are people's lives. These are people that are entrusting you to help them and confide in you. And I think it's just it's not the right thing to do. We keep that completely separate. Once in a while we might say, "Hey, we're doing a residential case tonight," but that's as far as it goes. We'll never show
Yeah.
any footage from a residential case. Even if they say we can, we won't. Just because we want to, like I said, we want to earn that trust. We go to plenty of other places as teams. We also have a show on Paraflix called The Haunted Files, where Eric, the team leader, and I, it's our own, this is our own project. We'll bring in other team members here and there, but we get to investigate, you know, and do that. So the residential stuff stays private. So, and then we also have a radio show every Monday night, a War Party Paranormal radio show, and it's on the digital KGRA digital broadcasting network. And we bring on guests and a lot of the people that you'll see on TV and different things, and we'll chat about the paranormal. Um, but yeah, so we get different outlets to get that kind of stuff out there. You know what I mean? And we've
Yeah.
been to some pretty spooky spots filming for the show, so it's been great so far. We're on season
Have
3
you,
already, so.
wow, man, that's awesome. Uh, have you guys had a moment? Because you said you do a preliminary, like, kind of interview or
Mhm.
before you actually go do the investigation. Did you ever have one to where you felt like A lot of these can probably be explained away. We'll check it out. And when you got there, it definitely was something paranormal. Like you were surprised by what happened.
Yeah, I would say there's been both times, both ways, right? Where we're like, all right, you know what, this person's so we'll do a pretty detailed phone interview. And the reason that we got to vet these people is because, we got to make sure they're not looking for just entertainment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it didn't happen to me, but like I said, my partner there, Eric, they sounded super legit on the phone and everything, and then they showed up and they were drinking beer and hanging out, and they're like, "All right, let's do it, man. What are we doing?" They're like, "No, no, no, it doesn't work this way." You know what I mean? Like, we're not here for like a circus for like or for a kid's birthday party. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? We're gonna investigate the home, and you're actually gonna go outside, and we're gonna. So anyway, but yeah. So the answer to your question is yes. Yes, we have. We've had times where we kind of said, I don't know if this is gonna amount to anything, but let's
Yeah.
go check it out and see. And we've caught some stuff, yeah. And then vice versa, we're like, oh man, this is gonna be it's gonna be wild. Let's get over there and check this out. And then we get over there, and it's not always very. Uh, you're not always walking into some of the best situations either. A lot of
Uh,
times, you're so there's a fine line too, right? Because a lot of it can be mental health. A lot of it can be drug addiction and abuse, and um, not to say that you can't have paranormal and that. So that's where you got to kind of figure out, is it only mental health or drug abuse, or is it dysfunction that is fueling
yeah.
this
The negative
haunt?
energy is fueling it. Yeah.
Correct. So, but we have been in a couple times where it was just strictly drug abuse um and schizophrenia and paranoia and things where we have to kind of be very brutally honest. And you're walking into some very sketchy situations and very unpleasant. Kind of left you feeling a little strange after you left, somebody's house like this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
you got to tell them. You got to say, listen, you got to straighten your life out. You know what I mean? This is not. We didn't find anything. It's not paranormal. This is something that you're going to have to work on with yourself. You know, and people don't like to hear that. They don't like to
I was
hear
just
that.
gonna
So
ask that. I was gonna say, how do they react when?
sometimes they get a little argumentative. Sometimes they'll be a little different. But we have like a very big team, and we have which is good because we have our co-founder Zap has been doing this for 40 years, and he has so much experience doing residentials, and he is a tough guy, and he's like very like military tough. And when he speaks, you kind of like, he's just one of those guys that you're just like, all right, you know, and he'll
You're like,
do a
yes,
lot of the
sir.
yeah, and he'll do all those he'll do a lot of residentials with us. And yeah, and we've had problems where, they're like, oh, these people, because they see the TV shows and they think it's going to be that way. And and it's a
Yeah.
good thing and it's a bad thing, because it brings awareness out to people. It makes it less, you know uh woo woo,
Yeah.
and more a little bit credibility to things, because it's more mainstream a little bit now. If you told, like, in the beginning, I was almost embarrassed to tell people I investigated the paranormal, and now I don't feel that way. And now that, I mean, I don't really care anyway, but I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, people are like, what? Oh, that's you're
Yeah.
into all that weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but it's really not like that anymore. I don't feel like, I feel like it's become more normalized, and people
Yeah.
are more spiritual now too, so uh but yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
think.
so it's definitely, I've left a couple houses where I go, oh man, that was yikes. uh,
Yeah. I would know. I would imagine if you say you're getting close to like sometimes it being like once a week or something like that, I would imagine you're not batting 100 every single time, every single place you
yeah, I
go
mean,
to.
residentials are a lot more rare, but we're hosting events, or we're filming,
Yeah.
or we're doing this, or we're doing a residential case, or we're always doing some kind of an investigation. But yeah, exactly. I mean, I would say more than not, a lot of the residential cases that we go to are, not saying there's not a little bit of paranormal stuff going on there, but I would say a lot of them tend to be, um, dysfunction, which that negative energy can fuel things,
Yeah.
and then
One
we tell
hundred
people
percent. Yes.
there's homework to be done. It's not like, um, we go in there with a can of Ghost Be Gone and just like,
Yeah.
all right, you're good now, and we have people on the team that do cleansings. That's not my forte, but we do have plenty of people on the team that are more spiritual and and religious and do different things. And that's the other thing about this. You don't have to be one religion or the other religion, as long as your religion, um or your belief is with good intent, then that's all you need. You know what I mean? It's it's one of those things. We have an eclectic group on our team too. We have people that are Wiccan, we have people that are Catholic and Christian and Jewish. It's all different types. Um, so, but
Yeah,
yeah,
because
we're
you,
all
I mean,
pulling,
in
all
100% all
pulling.
honesty.
Yeah,
Oh, go on.
and
Sorry.
we're all pulling. No, no, I was just say we're all pulling the rope in the same direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because nobody knows 100%. So you bring in people from different backgrounds or whatever to kind of fill in little gaps in things when you have a
Yeah, and we
question
even
about
have
it.
like some people that don't even get out in the field much anymore. But we have a couple people that are historians, so we can go to them for certain things. And Florida's a very, I would say, hotspot for paranormal activity due to the fact that there's so much Native American blood in the grounds here, just everywhere, everywhere. There were these indigenous people that lived here go back to, BC, and there were so many of them, and so many tribes and so many different people and so many of these, um, burial mounds and religious mounds and ceremonial mounds that have all been just kind of built over. And then you have, our bedrock is limestone, and we're surrounded by salt water. And salt water, limestone, are very conductive of electricity, and which we believe that these entities or these spirits or ghosts, whatever, what have you, um, use electric and this energy, to manifest.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are tons of people who would believe. I mean, even the tribes there before have stories of like these areas are where you would find these spirits. These,
Oh yeah, yeah,
especially, we have tons
and
of
it's
tribes who would say that.
we did one of the shows on the Haunted Files on Paraflix called Spirits of the South, and that was probably one of the wildest experiences. And it was nowhere, I mean, I hate to say that. Let me rephrase that before I was about to say, but it wasn't one of these big, well-known, Waverly Hills type places,
Yeah,
and we have been there. We've been to a lot of these big places too. But this was an old serpent mound from 200 AD, 250 AD, that was in the 1930s. They didn't even know what it was, and they just kind of started shoveling it and destroying it and using it as road fill. And they actually built a cemetery right there. And that cemetery, uh, in no, I'm sorry, it was earlier than the 30s. It was probably in the early 20s, because in 1928 they had the huge hurricane through Lake Okeechobee, and they had some mass graves there, from that. So now you have
man.
a cemetery built on top of a religious ceremony site, and it was a whole town, and of these indigenous people. And then you have the cemetery, and then you have this all the mass grave and all this stuff going on in this one spot, and we investigated the mounds, and then we went over to the cemetery, and Eric was talking to me and said, "Hey, do you think that even if a, a spirit or a person that is on the other side that didn't speak English can understand us? If we're asking questions for an EVP, like these indigenous people probably have their own language. Do you think they
Yeah.
understand?" And clear as day, disembodied voice, loud as can be, it said yes, like that loud, female voice. So like I was like, I don't know, man. And then something just out of nowhere just said yes, like responding to his question. And it was none of our devices, none of our phones. We didn't even have our phones with us. Like it was unbelievable. We caught it on 2 different cameras, and I play it
Oh,
back and I switch.
that loud that it was picked up by.
Yes, it was picked up on our
Wow.
shotgun mics on 2 different cameras. And I played it back and everything on the video. It was we captured it on the show.
And it
So it
was
was
just you
pretty.
two there?
It was us 2 and our co-founder Scotty Burns that passed away
Okay.
now, but she was under in the investigation, but she was not her voice, and she was right there and she heard it too. So it was the 3 of us.
Wow. Yeah, it's always cool when you get like when you get an audible voice that you can
Yeah,
hear,
that's the thing to
but
me that
also
just
pick up on camera.
blows my mind. Disembodied
Yeah.
voices. That they're very rare. But I feel like audio, we can always not always, but we more than likely capture audio before anything visual. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I like the tools and the things of that nature, and all the different devices. And I got like a whole big toolbox on wheels full of different gadgets, and gizmos. But you know, they have to be used in a certain way, right? You have to be there's a lot of things that can trigger them naturally or man-made. You just it's when you start getting intelligent responses. You know what I mean? It makes me kind of laugh amongst myself when I see I'm scrolling through TikTok or something, and I see people with a doll, like something spooky looking doll with
Yeah.
the EMF K2 sitting on it, and they're filming it with their phone. They're live and they're sitting they're on a desk somewhere. You have so much EMF coming off your phone and all the
Yep.
stuff around you making that thing blink like that, and it's either they don't know or they're hoping you don't know. You know what I mean? That your phone is doing, so that you just got to use common sense on stuff on a lot of the
Yeah.
gadgets as
Yeah. Because
well.
I found out that just even your phone being in airplane mode, there's some signal that comes off of it, and it'll make even the slightest bit.
Because even a lot of the phones nowadays too also have lidar, so for your face recognition on the
Yeah.
front camera and the back camera. Yeah, it's just anything like that. Is definitely gonna affect it.
Yeah.
So, but
100%. I
that
see that all
but
the
going
time.
going back to like what you said, when you hear an audible voice, and I'm in the middle of the Everglades with 2 other people at 1 o'clock in the morning, and also we had FLIR cameras, forward looking infrared, thermal cameras.
Yeah.
So we swept the whole area right after we heard that, looking for any humans. They would have been glowing, and standing in a cold cemetery at night. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so we scanned and see if there's any people around or anything. Nothing.
Yeah. And I don't think there's any animal that can sound like it's saying
No,
yes by
it
making a
sounded
noise.
more digital almost than anything. It
Oh,
sounded
wow.
like I would describe it as like uh almost like if um like
Like if
a
it came out of like a speaker or something like that? Like,
yeah, like
okay.
but there was nothing. There was nothing there. And
Wow.
we even
Wow.
started screaming like, hey Google, hey Siri, to see if anything, was going, like maybe somebody left the
Yeah.
phone and it happened, at the cemetery, and we couldn't figure out.
That's crazy. And it wasn't through any device. It was just out in the open, like
Yeah,
completely
no, it was just
disembodied.
us
Okay.
with a couple recorders and some cameras out there doing an EVP session.
Yeah, see, that would make me lose my mind a little bit, just because I've had moments where things come through a device, like say the spirit box or whatever. Um, I've had those moments happen, but hearing it happen outside of anything that's like a
Yeah,
device where you can misinterpret it as just like the radio or whatever,
exactly.
that you can definitely tell if it's outside
Have
of
you
any device.
have you seen or heard of the Delco goggles? That
I've seen your posts, but I
okay.
don't know exactly how. Like,
So
what's the
yeah,
benefit
that's
behind it?
something that we've been testing, and now that I've been selling them through the Ghost Hunter store, and um sold a lot of them, man. It's like I think there's like a couple hundred pair out there now between
Oh
teams.
shit! Nice.
Um, yeah. It's I'm honored. But basically, it's something that I designed because I would say I wanted to cross the Gansfeld experiment with the Estes method. And I was trying to come up with a way to do it where I didn't have to carry ping pong balls and a light and tape and all this stuff out to the field to locations. Um, are you familiar with the Gansfeld experiment?
Yeah, yeah.
So
That
you know,
and the
yeah,
Estes method. Like, so
yeah.
I'm getting where you're coming from when you were saying like,
Okay, cool. So anybody that's
yeah,
listening that's not like an investigator or something like that, and is like, "What are these guys talking about?" Um, the Gansfeld experiment was designed by somebody way smarter than me a really long time ago, and that's the it was used in parapsychology for testing ESP, and the government started using it in the 70s to test ESP and different things, and they would put ping pong balls cut in half over your eyes and then tape all the so there's no light coming in, shine a red light into your eyes, put speakers headphones on, and you would listen to pink noise. And pink noise is like white noise, but it's a full range instead of just the high pitch side of it. So it was just static basically, and that would overload your senses, sensory deprivation. You can't see, hear, or anything like that. And then they would test ESP with different Zener cards and different ways of doing it. It has been used a little bit here and there in the paranormal. Um, and then the Estes method is use a blindfold, listening to a spirit box through a noise isolation headphones, and you repeat whatever you hear, and somebody else is
yeah,
asking questions. So what I wanted to do is cross the two. Instead of using a blindfold, you use red light sensory deprivation listening to a spirit box. So I designed these pair of goggles that have electroluminescent panels in them, red lights that run off AA batteries. And they fold up and you put them away and you can take them with you and you pop them on. And adding that red light sensory deprivation, it's like night and day from an Estes method to doing this. People are getting the experience of being touched. They're getting experiences of seeing visuals because unlike the Estes method, your eyes are open during this. Um, so you're staring into these red lights, and people have seen figures, and people not. It depends on the person too. It seems like the people that are more sensitive to the supernatural have greater experiences. But what I feel like it does is if you're not um, sensitive or you have a hard time meditating, it kind of pushes you into that state, right? So I am as sensitive as a rock. I say that jokingly,
same here, man.
um, but when I do go into somewhere that's dark and we're starting to get like some stuff, I will feel like a heaviness on my chest. I will
Yeah,
feel like a little bit of stuff like that, but I'm not going to be able to walk into a room and be like there's somebody standing there. Like none of that. I don't have any of that. But when I do the Delco experiment and I use these goggles, it just gives me that extra little push into that meditative side. So when there's somebody that's a psychic medium that does this, it amplifies their senses, almost like an overload. Patty Negree, I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's been on Ghost Adventures a couple times. She's a famous psychic medium in Hollywood. Um,
okay. I would probably know her by face, but the name's not
yeah,
ringing a bell.
she did it, and she was just blown away. Like I sent her a pair. We just had the new season coming out in January of 2025, the Haunted Files. We had April Bousset do it in White Hill Mansion in the basement in the Speakeasy, and it was just bananas, absolutely bananas.
Uh,
Yeah, I just posted today, what Cody and Satori had used them, the guys from the Paranormal Files. They're getting around. They're getting around. So
yeah, I might have to get a pair just so I can. Because my fiance, she doesn't like to like think that she does have a type of sensitivity, but I think she really does. Because any place we go into, she's like, I definitely feel a certain way. I definitely am picking up on emotions and things like that. So it would be interesting to see if she even would, because sometimes she gets too scared of it.
yeah, no, it's wild, right? And when we do our events too, we randomly pick people like, hey, who wants to try this? And it's so crazy to see the different reactions to different people
Yeah,
that they get. Like some will be, they won't see any visuals or anything, but and they'll be hearing, a lot of different stuff coming through the spirit box. But um it's just they and I've interviewed a lot of people that have done this. Like, how do you feel different from doing the Estes method compared to doing it this way? And they're like, yeah, I felt more cognitive. Like, I was doing the Estes method, I felt like a little sleepy, a little drained. Doing this, I felt like more like aware, and I was just like, a lot of people said they were seeing different faces coming in and out, and it's just bananas, man. So yeah,
yeah.
really,
I was
really
thinking of
cool.
as in like it keeps you aware, but also allows your mind to be open. I don't know if it's the red light there that's allowing
Yeah, it's
your
like
mind to open
overloading
up
your sense.
further.
So the
Yeah,
original thing was like, you block out. This is what I thought, right? So you block out all your senses. So your brain starts filling in the gaps, right? That
yeah,
was the theory. But then I thought, well, maybe it's not your brain filling in the gaps. Maybe since you are, just because if you're blind, your other senses heighten, right? You can hear. There's people even out there that have tune their hearing and stuff, that they can actually use like a sonar to, they make a click
yeah.
with
Like
their mouth.
echolocating, like
Yeah,
things like
exactly, right? So when you have when you take away one sense, your other heighten. So if you take away your hearing and your vision, and you're just focusing on the spirit box, and you can't see or hear anything else, um, I think it heightens everything else. It heightens your third eye, and you
yeah,
could be tapping into things that you can't see or hear normally.
yeah. Especially when you allow yourself to be open to it, rather
Exactly.
than I
And
think it.
when you go
Well,
ahead.
maybe it would be different if somebody was just like, "This isn't gonna work. This is completely bogus." Like completely shutting themselves off from the method. I wonder, have you had anybody who was like that
Oh yeah,
use
yeah,
it and
yeah.
then they experience
Rare,
something as
but
well?
like I've had a guy that, like, we set him up and gave him the goggles or an event, and he just sat there and never said a word. And I'm like, um, I heard something coming through the your
Yeah,
headphones. I was sitting over here. That's you know what I mean. Like, so if you're not willing to if you're so closed off that you're like, I'm not even, I don't believe this is not happening. This is all just nonsense. And if you just sit there and and fight it and not try to participate, the whole thing is you have to be open and allow yourself to be comfortable and get into that state of mind and listen, and yeah. I mean, if you sit there and
yeah,
and,
it's all
and,
part of
and
it.
say,
Yeah,
like, yeah, it's like there's no point in even doing it.
yeah. Because even when I first started, I was very much closed off of, or just thinking to the point like nothing's gonna happen for me. Even if you go in with that mindset of like nothing's gonna happen, now it's all whatever. They're just bigging up the stories, da da da. Da, then you're putting that kind of energy out there that no, you're not going to attract anything that way.
It's true. It's true
Yeah,
because the more when I first got on the team, I used to get like a little frustrated, right? I was like, man, I can't get a damn EVP. These guys are getting EVPs like crazy. I can't capture a good EVP. Um, But then once I started like not trying so hard, does that make sense?
Yeah, I
Like I
get you.
would just be like I'm talking to you. Like if I'm just sitting here talking to you, I'm like, these are people, these were people, they are people, whatever it is, or I believe, that's what I believe. So I treat them that way. I'm like, hey, anybody over here? I'm sitting here by myself. If you want to come on over and chat with me, I'm just trying to do a little research. I don't mean you any harm or disrespect, but I got this recorder here. If you know what that is, it'll record your voice, and then when I play it back, I could possibly hear you. So if you want to chat, now's your chance. Come on over, and we'll hang out and we'll talk. And that's the kind of the way I started approaching things, and that's when I started getting a lot more evidence. You know.
Yeah. There's definitely been moments for me where a lot of mine are like when I'm telling them, "All right, if you don't want to talk, I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna leave this area, move on." And then that's when something will happen. It's like, no, wait,
Yeah, yeah.
like
No, wait,
don't
wait,
go yet.
wait, wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because and it's also funny too because I'm not saying that there isn't dark stuff out there or demons and things. I just don't think they're as plentiful as YouTube makes you try to believe. Because I have encountered some stuff that's been pretty dark. But I think a lot of times, if you were an a-hole in life, you're probably an a-hole in your afterlife, right? And
Oh
I
yeah.
have a theory that sometimes if you I get a kick out of scaring people or freaking people out, right? If you're a ghost or if you're there and you can harass people and spook them, I mean that might be kind of fun, right? So we're at one location and we started getting some stuff. Kept saying devil, demon, demonic, out, die, and this is all through an Estes method. And I said, listen, that ain't gonna scare me. That ain't gonna work with us. I don't think you're any of those things. I think you're a person and you're trying to get a rise out of us, and that's not gonna happen. So if you want to sit here and talk to me like a man, then do so. Um, and the whole thing just completely switched gears. It was
Oh
crazy.
man.
So I
What
mean, I could
happened?
have
What
been
like how what did it do after? Like how did it
no. It
switch
just
you?
started like all that went away, and then they started answering some questions and just none of that it just stopped like all the angry demonic stuff just stopped. I mean, is that the right way to be all the time? No, but we've been to this place numerous times, and I kind of had we knew there was nothing dark in this area.
Yeah.
Not new, but we had a feeling because we've been there so many times that I felt comfortable being able to do that there. If it was a different location or something like that, I might have just said, all right, you know what, let's move on from here. Let's not push it. But yeah, I felt confident that, and I had this gut feeling that, this is not what you're saying it is, and it was
Yeah.
just wild. And I tried it and it just, like I said, it just flipped like that.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I I believe sometimes it is necessary to be stern and hold your ground when it comes to like
Oh, I think all
it
the
being a
time,
negative
you know,
negative energy, negative
even,
spirit. Yeah.
yeah, even a regular spirit, I feel that's we are on the living plane. We have more power.
Yep. I tell
So
people that all the time.
and you know what I mean, and you just gotta if you show fear, then they're gonna. It's like in any animal, if you stand up to an animal and you say, and you show it that you're not scared, but if you quiver or run or show fear, they're gonna something. All right, hear
Yeah. I
something over
just it
there.
was a loud bang.
Oh wow, weird.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any stuff go on there?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel like they'll feed off that, right? Like when
Yeah.
something, just like a fish too, like an injured fish or something that's injured or scared or running, it provokes the predator to attack. You know what I mean? And I feel
Yeah.
like if you don't show that fear, um, then or even like when we're leaving a location, I always tend to say, hey, listen, thank you for letting us be here. Um, you can't follow us home. You have to stay here. This is your domain. This is where you belong. and we'll come back and visit you, but you do not have permission to follow me or anybody else out of this building. And we'll come back. I always make sure I say that. If it works, I don't know, but it seems like it has. I haven't had anything um, ever come back with me or any of that yet. So maybe one time, but it wasn't to my house. After leaving a um, very dark and spooky spot, I had some activity at a hotel afterwards that I was staying in.
What made the area like dark and spooky?
Have you ever heard of Ledgeworth Village in New York?
No.
This place is what horror movies are made out of, man. This is a full compound um, where the mentally disabled and mentally handicapped or anybody unfit for society, deemed unfit for society, they would send them, and it was a full facility there. It was self-ran by all the patients. I almost said inmates, but it's like, almost like they were inmates. This is the stuff that you would see like Shutter Island type stuff. You know what I mean? Like they were
Okay,
doing
that's exactly
full.
what I was picturing when you were describing it.
Yeah, I mean they would do full frontal lobotomies. They were testing different things. This is when mental health was not what it is today, and they had no funding, so they had disabled and uh, children and adults running around naked and screaming and just very very, and people were mistreated and there was abuse. Um, but it was such a big place. They had like a whole area where it was like dorms, like where they all lived. They had a synagogue, a church, they had a hospital. It was so huge, and they had a factory. They had its own power plant. Like I mean, like it was its own place. Like, and they all like lived there and they worked there. And um, Geraldo Rivera did an expose on Willowbrook and Ledgeworth Village, and he has footage there from when he was there in the 80s, and it's just so disturbing. Um, and we went there now, and you could still feel the energy, I mean, of this place. And
Oh
we went
yeah.
down into the morgue of the basement, and we this is actually on my YouTube. Um, so if anybody out there wants to check it out, but um, exploring with Mike, um, and we left a recorder in the morgue and went and left and did our own thing, and then came back and picked it up. We left it on voice activation. And when we picked it up and we played it back, it sounded like children and people screaming and chairs sliding across the ground and movement and just complete chaos. And in the video that I have on YouTube, I took Geraldo Rivera's video from when he was standing there being interviewed with all the craziness going on behind him and children
Yeah.
running around. And I put the two videos, like I played one and then I played the other. Then I played the one and I labeled it, and it almost sounds identical.
Wow, man. Yeah, that sounds like nightmare fuel.
Yeah, and I mean, just walking around the place, and it's so decrepit now, and there's vines growing over everything, and the graffiti, and these old, just super creepy buildings. Like my wife told me about this place. She lived down the street from it, actually, in New York,
Wow.
growing up, and it was closed in 1996. That's how long, and this place was open 1911. So,
Wow.
I mean, how many
So
years and years of
close to
just
like 100 years.
yeah, of just absolute brutality and just mind-boggling things going on, and a lot of it, and I don't want to blame any of the staff necessarily. I mean, obviously, if there was abuse, yeah, that's from the staff, but it was so underfunded. They just didn't have the resources. There were so many patients there and not enough staff, you know.
Yeah, and there wasn't the
And
understanding. I mean, back then it was like, hey, we're either gonna beat them, shock them, or
yep,
give them a little hammer to the
y-
brain, you know?
exactly, yeah, exactly. And it was a wild place. It was just a eerie, creepy experience, and then investigating in there too, and some of the stuff that we captured, just mind blowing.
Yeah, more of your EVPs and things
A
like
lot, a
that.
lot of EVPs, a
Like,
lot of reaction on equipment, bangs and noises, on unexplained noises, and then that one EVP that we captured, that was, like I said, I was just explaining, that was almost just sounded like residual
yeah.
energy. Yeah.
Was there intelligent responses as well?
Yes, yeah, we
Yeah.
did get a lot of intelligent responses as well, but
Okay.
down in the morgue, it seemed for some reason there was a lot of um residual stuff that we feel, you know.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, we did get intelligent responses. We had intelligent reaction on some REM pods and different things of that nature. We're all about too on the haunted files too, because I I don't want to be like every other show you see
Yeah.
out there, and just to walk around and do some EVPs and that's it. So we always try to tend to experiment and try different stuff. We were at the Gilchrist County Jail here in Florida. It's an old jail that was abandoned and whatnot. And I brought a Tesla coil into the room and just set that sucker off for a little while just to see if it
Yeah.
would, like an EM pump in the room.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
I
just
did
amplify the energy in that area.
exactly. And then while I was doing the Delco session, I handcuffed myself, um, just to let them know, like, hey, I'm one of you guys. You know what I mean? I'm handcuffed too. Come talk to me. I'm non-threatening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just try to do different stuff. Keep it interesting.
No, that would definitely, I mean, just bringing a Tesla coil in general, like, I think is an interesting method to just kind of amplify everything up. Because they do have EMF pumps, but those are like very like kind of small.
Yeah, this
I
this
could
Tesla
definitely
coil is
feel it when you put your hand over it. You can feel like it coming off of it. But I think with a Tesla coil, that's a game changer. Like,
yeah, yeah, it was pretty wild. I mean, and that thing's loud too. It's like wop 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 wop.
yeah,
It was intense. Plus, it looked really cool on on video.
yeah,
You know, so but yeah, I mean, we've had some really strange stuff happen when we were filming. And it's just really neat to be able to capture those moments and get them out
yeah,
there and show people. And if you are interested in checking it out, it's on Paraflix. I don't know if you ever heard of Paraflix.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's a streaming platform. It's very inexpensive, and we're on there, the Haunted Files. I just want, it's not something that we make money on, really. We get a couple bucks. It doesn't even, it kind of pays for gas for like half the trip. You know what I mean? That's about it. But it's
yeah,
more just something we're just super passionate about, and I enjoy editing too. I edit all the videos, and I just want to get the stuff that we're capturing out there and let people see what's going on, and from hopefully somebody that's 100% legit. Like we don't fabricate anything, man. We're out there just trying to, whatever we capture, we film, we put it out there. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't. In the end, I don't think fabricating anything's gonna help you. Like in the end, because something
Yeah,
eventually will come out. You just want to make sure you stay diligent on being 100% you guys and being honest with people.
yeah,
Because
exactly. And that's
yeah,
that's all we can ask for.
yeah, and it was from that location there that something followed you back.
Yes. So yeah, I got all off track, but yeah. So after I left Ledgeworth Village, um, I went back to my hotel, and we were visiting family for a wedding. Like I said, my wife was from up there, so Joe and I went to Ledgeworth, a teammate and good friend of mine, and so after that, we went back to our hotel, um, and I was in. My wife was out with her girlfriends, getting ready for the wedding, doing whatever. So I was in the hotel room by myself, and um, I was flipping through footage that we captured during the investigation on my laptop. Um, and I'm just sitting at the little table there and minding my own business and going through footage. And I heard some stuff like rustling around behind me. I look, I didn't see anything. And then at first I was like, whatever, kind of like one of those things. I was the AC blew on a bag. I don't know, whatever, something. And then I kept doing my thing. And then I see something flicker in the corner of my eye, and I look over, and it's the light in the ceiling above the in front of the bathroom is flickering, and I'm like, all right, well, my bulb's taking a shit. So I kept doing my thing. It stopped, and then I would go back, and then it would do it again. I'd look, and as soon as I look, it would stop. And for some reason, I just felt like, all right, you know what? This is something's trying to get my attention.
Yeah.
Like, this is not just like I you know what I mean? For some reason, I felt like there was something there. I also had that feeling like something is there. So I was
Yeah.
like, hey, and so I said, if you're here, can you do that again? Sure enough, it did it on command. And I was like, how about something else? You know what I mean? Just to prove that that's not. And at this point, I'm getting my phone out, and I'm like turning on the camera, and I'm like recording myself like backward, like FaceTime, like myself like backwards, like with the camera facing myself. And I'm like
Yeah.
talking, and I'm like kind of like turning the camera to see if I can capture it. And the light behind me, like this fake light that's here on the green screen, started look almost like that. And that started flickering when I was like, can you do something else? Something to show me
Yeah.
something else. And then I was like, all right, you know what? You got to go. You can't be here. This is my place of rest. I'm staying here. And if if you came from Ledgeworth Village, that's that's your home. That's where you belong. You can't be here. You got to go. Um, and then I kind of like said that like real stern, and sure enough, stopped and didn't have any problems
Well, yeah,
since.
because definitely in that moment, you're like, it could be my mind just messing with me, or it could be just like hyper fixating on shit, or it's like, but once you get like an intelligent response like that, then it's
Yeah,
just like, okay, all right,
yeah,
you gotta
yeah.
go.
And I don't know. It was just like I've never had that happen. Like after an investigation, come home, maybe I'll hear something and just be like, whatever. But I felt something. I felt the presence there, after that,
Yeah.
and then I didn't tell my wife; she would have freaked out. She'd be
Oh
like, "We're
yeah.
changing." Yeah,
I never tell my fiance when something immediately happens. I'll tell her later.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
exactly.
but never right when it happens. Because she'll hear noises when I'm gone for work. She'll just hear things, and she's like, I hear people talking, I hear this, and I go, well, we live in a condo. She's like, no, it sounds like it's in our condo.
What
So,
do you think's causing that? Like maybe some of the stuff something you brought in, or is it something?
um, well, yeah, because I did have haunted objects that were sent to me. Came across things that ended up giving her insane nightmares. So now that thing is like locked in a jar with holy water and locked in a case. Just like in our dining room, really. Um, but yeah, there's definitely things that happen, and I feel also doing this and constantly talking about
Yeah,
the paranormal really like kind of opens that door so things
yeah,
can
yeah,
just
yeah.
wander
No,
in.
for sure, for sure. Um, Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. And like we've even done investigations live with psychic mediums, and they can send stuff over through the phone, through a live.
Yeah, I have like like I got a haunted doll. Nothing's ever really happened with it, but she kind of sits above me here while I record in the recording room. And I've said it before on a few shows, but there's a thing that happens when people stay in this guest room that I record in, because it's just a mattress on the other side of me for people to sleep. Um, and they always have a dream of me getting into the bed with them, but they think that it's actually me. They're like, "Did you crawl in the bed last night?" And I go, "No, I'm sleeping in my room, man. Like, there's no reason for me to be a weirdo and crawl into bed next to you." But for some
Weird,
reason,
right?
it keeps happening. Like anytime somebody stays, they're like, "I definitely saw like you come into the room." Like, nope, wasn't me.
Wow.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
definitely from this.
Yeah. No, I'm sure. I'm sure, and that's crazy because it's like a reoccurring. Different people, same thing. So
Yeah. I
strange.
always tell somebody, you can be another experiment. Let me know if something happens.
Yeah. Tell me what you experienced. Yeah.
It's always good to tell your guests that they will be visited by your doppelganger in the middle of the night.
It's not really me, man.
Yeah. But yeah, that's definitely interesting, man. Are there was this the moment was this last the investigation you were just talking about and something following? Was that like the darkest thing that you have felt while at an
No,
investigation? No, not at
no,
all.
mm-mm.
No, there've
No. I
been
felt that had more sadness,
oh, okay.
and that's kind of what I felt there after that investigation was. I feel like there was some stuff there that was pretty angry, but I feel more majority of it was overcoming of just sadness.
Yeah.
Um, and that might have just been me thinking about the people that were there and just kind of going into it. But I just so to answer your question, there's out of all the places I've been and traveled and everything, I would say the two are here in Florida. One is the Devil Tree.
Okay,
Um,
I've heard of the Devil Tree.
yeah, that has a really sick and twisted backstory to it, and I'll keep it short and sweet because I know we're probably getting up there in time. But there was a serial killer in the '70s that was a cop, and he used to pick up women hitchhiking, and he would do some very sick stuff and out by this tree in Oak Park in Port St. Lucie, Florida. And then years after his conviction and everything, people would, because he was into the occult and satanic worship and different things as well. That continued. People would come out there and do rituals and satanic worship, and still do to this day. Um, and there's a lot of local legend on that tree too, so it brings a lot of visitors out to seek it, and a lot of negative energy, a lot of curious energy. Um, and I think that we met a guy that was an author that wrote the DoubleTree books that were like somewhat fiction, but nonfiction. They were both like a little bit exaggerated, and he tells you it's a nonfiction book, but there's based on some fiction. So
Yeah,
anyways, but
inspired
he
by true events
yeah,
type deal.
exactly. But then it kind of goes off the rails. Um, but he did a lot of investigating, like digging deep into the actual murders, and found some FBI documents that were declassified and different things, and found pictures of the real tree and tracked down the tree that the murders actually happened at and the area where the bodies were discovered. Um, so he took us out to those locations, and Joe, my buddy at Psychic Medium, saw an apparition and jumped and almost fell down, like, and he got sick and vomited, and he couldn't even be near the tree. He had to go away. We brought a couple of the psychic mediums out there. They wouldn't go near the tree. We didn't even tell them it was the actual tree, because there's one out there they call the locals tree. If you look it up online, it's all over the place, but that's not the actual tree where the murders happen. He did do stuff there at that tree, some sick stuff, but the actual tree where the murders happen are just down the trail a little bit. I don't want to disclose that I where it is or exactly, because I promised him I wouldn't. Um, but yeah, there's the actual tree. We brought psychic mediums to, and we said it's right. We knew where it is, but we said it's right around one of these trees right here, and they're like, it's this one, and I'm not going near it.
Wow.
And like I said, we had people get sick, um, and just all kinds of stuff going out there. A lot of evidence. There was one time where it was dead calm, not no wind, and it's like like a tropical canopy area, and a lot of vegetation and foresty type stuff going on, and it was dead silent, no wind. And anytime we mentioned the guy's name, the serial killer's name, it's talking, like a gust of wind would come and the trees would just go, and then it would stop, and nothing. And then if we
Yeah.
said the name again, that would happen. And I mean, there were so many like little things like this. I captured on a thermal camera, um, something in like a silhouette there. I mean, we did an Estes method there, and it went weird, and just a lot of crazy stuff happened there, and you could just feel um, the negativity and the darkness, and also um, Joe and I found a weird altar there that somebody had made. Um, it's like a box that was like spray painted black. It was like like 2 feet by 2 feet box, and it had all kinds of occult symbols painted all over it, and it had a little door on the back, and it was sitting there, and then it had an X, like a Maltese cross of two like sticks that somebody put on top of it with some coins and like some like little candles and like an offering.
Yeah.
And this is in the woods right next to this thing. I didn't want to touch it, obviously. I'm ballsy, but I'm not gonna mess with that, you know. So I kind of take my flashlight, and I'm looking like into the door, and I because the doors like kind of creaked open. It was like a half inch, and like I said, I didn't want to touch it, even with a stick. I just didn't want to touch it at all. But I'm kind of like looking just into the door, and I could see like eyes in there, like there might have been like a cat or a dead animal inside.
Yeah. Still eerie. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So like I'm like, yeah, dude. So a lot of weird stuff going on there. Um
Oof.
and
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine somewhere that carried that negative of energy, like not to the point where, I mean, obviously sadness, but it was definitely somebody doing evil things as a
Evil.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah, just
evil. And
straight up evil.
if you look into the history of it, John Gerard Schaefer, he ended up killing like 30 something, they say, and he was only convicted for the two. He was friends with Ted Bundy in jail, and he asked if he killed a pregnant woman, does that count as two people? Um, like he had a strain, like the whole story behind it is very, very sick. He was beaten as a child, like the serial killer, and his sister was favored, and nothing ever. So he kind of wished he was like a girl, you know, the whole time. He was like, "My
Yeah.
sister's been favored. I'm getting my ass kicked." All this sick stuff, and then he used to like strangle himself around the tree, and that's where the tree fixation thing came into. So he would always take the women to a tree. Um, we had one psychic medium out there. She's like, I feel like, and she never been there before. We met her online, and she said we said, "Hey, we're going out and investigate this. You want to come?" She said, "Yeah, let's go." So we even had her like, "All right, you take us. We'll follow your lead." And she walked us right to the tree. And I mean, it was through trails in the woods. Um,
Yeah.
and then she's telling me like I'm feeling like things hanging from the tree. And then Keith was with us, the author, and he's like, "Yeah, he hung body parts and stuff from this tree." And she's like, she's like, "I'm feeling like my chest and my stomach like pain, like right here, like just like, oh, like, he's like, yeah, he used to disembowel his victims from hanging from a tree." So
Jeez.
it's just a lot of bad, and then sexual stuff, and just a
Yeah.
lot of real bad stuff. And then I would say the other darkest place that I've been is Aerojet Rocket Facility, um, which was we did an episode on the Haunted Files on that, and you can watch that, and that's a very wild. The Python hunters found it. Um, they were out there, Python cowboy, um, and because we have a big python epidemic
Yeah.
in the Everglades. So these guys were out there. Super nice guy, by the way. Awesome. I'll give a big shout out to Python Cowboy there. But they found a pentagram, like all like spray painted out there. They found a doll with like its eyes ripped out and a cross on its head, and all this satanic stuff and blood on the floor. And so we ended up going out there and investigating it, and this thing's just got out of hand. Like we had to stop and do a cleansing and get out of there.
Yeah. No, I would imagine any of the, I mean, even if people are doing those things as like some weird joke or anything like that. It's you're still, performing those things. You're still like I think something as like pulling the eyes out of a doll and blood in anywhere
But
becomes
I
a
mean,
ritual.
this is 3 miles into the Everglades. It's not something that
Yeah,
you're
it
like,
will
you're gonna
still like I
stumble.
yeah, that's what I mean. Even if they're doing it as a joke, it still brings that negative energy. So to know that somebody is going that far out, it's definitely not a joke. To just
Yeah,
leave somebody, yeah.
and even like you said, even if it was just kids just spray painting and being silly and trying to scare people, you still have the father of rocketry, um, Jack Parsons was heavily into the occult. Um, and he was one of he Aleister Crowley's disciples, and you have murders that happened out there, suicides, um, right there on the property, missing people, missing persons, um, all kinds of stuff. I've heard more disembodied voices out there than I have anywhere. Um,
Oh man.
and it's just like it's post-apocalyptic looking secret NASA rocket test facility, and out in the middle of the Everglades with satanic stuff going on. And we got devil and Satan come across on the spirit box like over and over. Like I said, it's absolutely wild. Um,
Yeah, no,
if you go,
I would
if you,
100% imagine that.
yeah, if you look at like the haunted files on Instagram, we have the trailer for the video there. You can see it. It's
Okay,
pretty
cool.
pretty nuts. I'll send it to you
Yeah.
afterwards, or if
Yeah.
check it out.
Yeah, 100%. Well, man, I think sharing those two towards the end were a good way to cap out the show.
Yeah, right.
If you want to let
Absolutely.
if you yeah, if you want to let everybody know where they can find you, where they can find your shows, things like that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and
Go
I
for it.
made it real simple. The easiest way, is if I have a website. It's FLA, like Florida, paranormalresearcher.com, and that links out to all my other stuff, all my social media, my YouTube, Paraflix, and also links out to the Haunted Files website and all the different things that we got going on. Also have a link on there to bring you to other teams if you need help somewhere in a different state. And you also want to check out warpartyparanormal.com. And yeah, that's it. That's where you'll find us. So
Yeah, and I'll put the link for everything the people to visit down in the
yeah, and I'd appreciate it. And
description
anybody, and
details
like I
below.
said, anybody out there listening, um, I would really appreciate it if you check out the haunted file stuff. We put so much work into it, like getting out there, filming, traveling. It's all funded by us ourselves. We film ourselves, we edit ourselves. It's all self-produced, and it's very inexpensive. For Paraflix, I think it's like $3 or $4 a month. And if you use the code word, the haunted files 25, you get 25% off your annual subscription. So it's it's
Oh,
it's
nice.
very inexpensive. And like I said,
That's
we're
less than
not
a cup of coffee nowadays. So
exactly, and
yeah.
we're not looking to it's not a money making thing. We're passionate about it. We want people to see it and check it out. So
No, especially with the amount of work that you do. It definitely sounds like it's a labor of love.
it is, yeah, it is,
Yeah.
and that's the biggest thing. I just want people to check it out and see what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, to everybody listening, make sure you go like, follow, subscribe to all of his work. Um, like and follow Induce Fear. Don't forget to ask questions and face your fears. Thanks for joining me and Mike on this episode of Induced Fear. Bye, guys.
Take care.